your life. You got this. Go chase it, live your life. Enlighten you. Let the light shine through. Light. Enlighten you. Just see it through.
I'm Alyssa Thrasher.
And I'm Lolita Cummings.
Welcome to Enlighten You, EMU's award-winning mental health podcast for students. You know, we're grateful to be nearly halfway through our third season of Enlighten You, and every episode is different. Even though we focus on mental health issues, some episodes are light and fun, while others are a bit more serious. We never know what turns our conversations will take, but today's show is likely to be more serious and somber. But as always, it'll focus on issues we believe are affecting many of you.
That is so true. Today we're welcoming an EMU student who in many ways is just like you. Josh Neiman is a soon-to-be graduating senior who sometimes feels like the weight of the world is on his shoulders. He's busy enough with his coursework as an English major and a creative writing concentration, and as a student working in the Halley Library Archives Department. But if that were not enough, Josh is also a very talented Eastern Echo podcaster. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But it's not specific actions that we're going to discuss today. It's his thoughts. Josh suffers from anxiety, depression, and feelings of hopelessness, just as we know many of you do. Also joining us is our resident mental health expert, Dr. Aisha Mustafa, a licensed clinical therapist and an assistant professor in EMU's Department of Leadership and Counseling. Stay with us as we explore some crucial questions, including how do we all stay hopeful about our futures when everything feels so uncertain? Josh and Aisha, welcome to Enlighten You. Josh and Aisha, welcome to Enlighten You. I shouldn't say welcome to you because you're one of us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Before we get started, I want to thank you for having me on your show,
of course.
Living Lanterns.
Yeah.
I tell everyone what a cool experience that was. I've never been on a podcast before in that environment down by we used to call it the Lake House. What's it called now?
Well, it's still called the Lake House,
Okay.
that area, but the broader area down there is called like University Park.
University Park,
Yeah.
where you have the pond in front of you. You start at dusk, and by the time you're done, it's completely dark.
Yes.
And it's amazing. Great questions. You were a great interviewer because you had me reveal far more of myself than what I had planned to. So you did a good job. Through the Eastern Echo, you produced the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much. And everyone, I hope everyone listens to your show.
Well, I hope so
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, though.
Thank you so much. And the show can be accessed through Eastern Echo's website, right?
Yes, but also just
Podcast platforms?
yeah, most platforms at the Eastern Echo podcast. All of our shows fall under that title. So even though there's like sub shows, it's all under the Eastern Echo podcast.
Well, I don't know about the other ones, but I really like yours. So thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I can't wait to take a listen.
It was fun.
I
It really was very
bet.
fun. I got bit by one mosquito, but it was fun.
One mosquito
One
is
mosquito
worth
got
it.
me, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just one. Wow. Well, I'm happy you're on the other side of the table,
Oh, yeah.
and you're
it's-
you're willing to share some personal insight into
Yeah.
your journey.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange. I could already tell that I didn't know what to do with my hands, so I just stuck them under the table.
Well, we're all friends here. You're amongst family members, EMU family. So, but take us back. We want to know a little bit more about your story. I understand that you are dealing with depression and anxiety, or even both, right?
Yeah, broadly speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, broadly speaking. So when did you first start dealing with these two things?
It's interesting because I feel like as a youth, there's kind of, you can feel it, but you don't really know what it is. And then there becomes a point where you kind of are able to address it or to realize what it is. So I feel like I was feeling traces of whatever as early as middle school. But I think when I became, very conscious of what it was around junior year of high school. Yeah.
Wow. And when you say traces, can you share what you were experiencing at the time?
Yeah. It's actually something that I remember on occasion talking with my sister about, where it's like, and maybe this is something that every kid experiences, I don't know, but it's just kind of as a kid, there are pockets of realizing how like empty you feel. You become conscious of the fact that it's not necessarily something that you should be feeling as a kid, but you don't know what it is. And it's a really weird experience as a kid to be doing something that usually you would find enjoyment in, and then just kind of being like, wait, I don't feel anything from this.
I see. So losing your desire in things that you used to feel joy in, you didn't feel joy in things that you liked to do before.
Yeah, it wasn't all the time, but on occasion for sure. Yeah.
And that's difficult, I think, to define, because middle school is, if someone asked me to go back to an age, it would not be middle school. That's a tough time, I think, for a lot of people anyway, where you're trying to discover who you are and what you enjoy in the world. And now you have these feelings that are conflicted and you're not quite sure what to do about it. Is that common, Aisha?
Yeah.
That period?
So the primary symptom of depression is anhedonia, which is a fancy way of saying of lack of pleasure and interest in things that once happened. And so we all experience like, oh, I really don't feel like doing this thing I want to do, but it keeps happening where it's kind of like this emptiness. And during that time in life, you're figuring out who you are, all these changes, and there's hormonal balances. And then to Josh's point with your peers, you're kind of like, there's like this, I feel like when I've had it just like kind of like something's not right and it's not going away, and then just an internal dread, and that you're like, I don't feel like this is normal, it's like something's a little off there.
Yeah. But at that age, it's hard to define what normal is.
Yeah, because you know your experience, you see others, you may have the imposter syndrome of everyone's having a great time, they have all these friends, and then it's just kind of, this doesn't seem to be going away. And, maybe for students, like the next school year is just like such dread, even though they maybe were already in the school, they know the friends, they've been in this district the entire time. It's just like this existential dread, but also the world's happening. People are like, what are your college thoughts? You're like, I'm in 8th grade, actually. But like, you gotta like think about that. And so what is like, it's more, you experience it more than other.
Yeah. Yeah, you're nodding. Does some of that resonate with you, Josh?
Yeah, I think the phrasing of like internal dread is pretty, I don't know, resonated with that a lot, because I remember it really feeling like some sort of just like emotional bottom just dropped out when I was doing something that was, maybe I was looking forward to, or maybe it was supposed to be fun, and kind of being like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then people being like, why? Like, we're all having what's going on? And I'm just like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Very interesting. We were talking about this earlier, that a lot of people are carrying a lot of weight on their shoulders. And through some of our research and talking to students, it's not so much classes or grades. It's more about what's happening around them, like societal issues, political tensions, climate change. So, Josh, in thinking about that, how much of that relates to your story, and are you worried about those things right now?
I definitely am these days. That wasn't always the case. My political journey was kind of interesting, but I don't think it's too dissimilar to a lot of other people's, where I wouldn't say I took pride in not caring about politics like in early high school, but I definitely would be like, oh, it's not, that's not my area. I'm not a political person. I don't care. I think going into, like the latter half of high school, like junior and senior year, and then heading into college, you become very aware of the things that not only impact you, but impact, people that you love. And at that stage, you're meeting, so many different people than maybe you were before. And all of a sudden, you realize that their issues and the things that they face might not be the things that you face, but you all of a sudden take on all these different worlds, so to speak, because they're now worlds that you care about because of who you've met. Which I think is a good thing, but it definitely, I think, throws you into something that you're not necessarily like prepared for in a way. And I think that can be tough. I don't want to generalize, but I feel like most people who are my age who don't care about politics really are people who haven't really branched outside of their circles that they've been in for a long time.
I that it's very deep, right? I love how you articulated that. I really do, because you're right. I mean, the more we expand our world, the more we see suffering, and the more hopefully we care about all of that. Um, and so I'm gonna flip the switch on a question that you asked me on your show. So I'm gonna ask you now on my show. Um, how do you cope with that? I know when you asked me, I said that I wasn't proud of it, but I sometimes have to disconnect myself from it for survival. Because the more I see it, the heavier it gets, the more sad I get about it. How do you? Because I know it's difficult for you too.
Yeah, I think I said, I didn't go into it too deeply, but I think I said I don't really know. I think there are bad ways for sure that I cope with things, and that is just like filling my head with like garbage, whether it's YouTube or there's a big link to phone addiction there as well. And it's kind of weird because sometimes when people get into those spaces, they dive into consuming as much media as possible, and all it's kind of doing is just shoveling coal right into feeling overwhelmed. So I don't think I cope in any kind of way that helps at all. I think it helps, but I also think I know that it doesn't help, which is weird, because it's like you would know that it's not doing anything. In fact, it might be doing it worse, but you keep doing it anyways. Yeah. I think there's good ways that I cope on occasion, art or writing or any of my other hobbies. But when you're dealing with a battle with motivation, particularly when it comes to struggling with the weight of the world, it is harder to do those things than it is to do other things.
And then with depression, I feel like for me, it's been, when I've had it, it's like walking through mud.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, you're supposed to go out and find friends. And you're like, I physically feel like there's an elephant on my chest when I wake up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Aisha, I'm coming back to you. So our therapist extraordinaire who knows it all. How do we process this? How do we feel better? And when things are just horrible, very often when we wake up and it's the first thing that we're exposed to. How do we get through those days? What do we do?
Yes. I experienced this as well, where I remember last year something had come up on the news and I sat in my car crying. I was like, I got to get in the house. And I find there's some practical things of how you engage with the media. Do you not do it the first thing in the morning? Do you not do it while you're scrolling at night? Things I'm all guilty of, by the way.
So no judgment.
Yeah, no judgment. We listen and we don't judge. The main thing I have found that's life-saving is building community. And so going to the Ypsilanti District Library, seeing familiar faces. As the podcast viewers know, I love me some Tinker. I know you were going to say it. And so I go to office hours and there's a group I always see and we talk and they're like, how's your kid's daycare? I'm like, how are classes? And I see one of Tinker's moms, Alexis, and it's so exciting. And by the time this airs, it will already have occurred. But one of our students who's from Nepal, there's a holiday there where they honor dogs. And so they're going to do it at Tinker in the library, just honor dogs, where it's like a festival. And so I'm super pumped about that coming up in a couple of days. And so that's the kind of stuff that just keeps me going, is seeing the beauty in the different events that are happening right here locally in Ypsi. And then meeting people who are doing that work and volunteering and seeing people in my community are like, hey, can we do mutual aid? Which is it's not charity. It's asking people around you for funds to help something. So someone's like, I know someone who's leaving a domestic violence situation. Can anyone chip in so we can get her hotel room? And I know the person asking for her friends. So I was like, here's a couple dollars. Yeah. And so that gives me a lot of joy. And then I have to remind myself not to feel happy because I did this small thing, which is this battle with mental health. But that is what is saving me right now.
I love that. And I love the whole, like you said, community, but it's not close. It's not limited to close friend community, right? So it can be, I'm feeling bad right now. So right now, my friends may not be available, but I'm going to go do this because I know people at the library. I know people are here or there. And I mean, we should get some joy out of doing those things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just learning different things. Like recently, the Center of Race and Ethnicity Core had a documentary is about the Selma Montgomery Foot Shoulders sisters who were participating. I think they're like 14 and 15, and now they're much older. And listening to that and feeling community, and then seeing people I see at similar events and just saying hi, even if I don't have a relationship with them, is a lot of joy. And I remember one of my friends and neighbor, we lived close enough. We walked to the event and then walked home. Like the simplest pleasures that I'm like, wow, this like made today great in the midst of everything that's happening.
I love that.
Yeah, so you're finding joy. And Josh is doing that too, finding joy in the things that you like to do, creative writing, your podcasts, and
He's a great
art.
cartoonist.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he is.
I'm just impressed. So that's really good news. So, just thinking about tough days, because we all have tough days. What does a tough day look like for you, and how do you work through that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I loved what you were talking about community. And see, that's something that I really struggle with a lot, because even though I guess I have multiple different communities, it can be hard to recognize that on a bad day, I think. And it's a hard balance to know when to rely on somebody and when it might become unhealthy. I think one of the things that I really struggle with personally is like my immediate reaction is always to like I need to talk to somebody.
Like a professional or a friend, or just
In this case, a friend. I'm in between therapists at the moment, so I don't really have that option right now. And so I will go to a friend and maybe they're busy. And I have very involved friends like on campus. Not really one of them has a lot of time like ever. And so on a bad day, it can be really easy to take that as kind of a personal thing, or just get very in my head about the fact that I have like nobody to talk to. And then that kind of causes a whole spiral of falling down this train of thought where it's like, wow, I really have nobody. I'm super alone. I think that idea of being alone is really the kind of nexus point for a lot of different pitfalls, I should say, that are easy to go down. So, and I think in those spaces too, it can be super easy to become, self-destructive and start really trying to ask and push for more than somebody can give, and then it becomes worse, and then you start losing people. That's a hard thing to balance. Being in that position of like, I so desperately want to talk to somebody, but I'm also desiring more than what the people around me can give. And it's not necessarily anyone's fault, I would argue. But
I agree. And
Yeah.
I know you're not the only one. I mean, you want your friends to be there, but you don't want to over ask or, and Aisha, with hearing, what he's talking about, I know other students are feeling the same way. I mean, what would be your advice to students who...
That's a great question. So, I mean, with depression, anxiety, it does fun things to your brain where it just tells you stories that aren't there. But then you're like, well, maybe the story is there and here's the evidence. And so if friends continually say I'm busy, it's easy to be like, okay. And then you take it personally because it feels personal, and maybe they're not busy and they're doing stuff, and your brain says they're with all these other people, they're having a great time, I saw them post, like it doesn't make sense. And so how to navigate, it's great to ask for friends and support. We always promote building community. And on the other hand, how do you navigate if finding support within yourself and helping you to self-regulate, but also co-regulation is great. So there's like this dynamic of this push and pull. And so I think checking with friends, like, what capacity do you have? Maybe it's just like a quick, we only talk. Like, can I just we're studying different parts of the library. Can I just pop down, literally wave and be done with it? It's also hard. I find as I get older, we have to schedule with my friends weeks out and use a calendar. Yeah. It's so much.
I'm doing
It's just
scheduling calls weeks out.
It's why? And then it's, we all complain about when we were at a residential campus, it'd be like, do you want to come over an hour? And I wish a friend would do that to me now. What?
Right, exactly.
I need 72 hours
look at my
minimum.
calendar, right?
And so I think it's a complicated thing of checking with folks. And also one of the things I love is having standing dates. So one of my friends has a standing, it started as like a play group. So her and her friends didn't have to navigate with kids, but now the fourth Friday every month, it's just, here's an invite. You don't need to tell us if we're coming or not. It's a potluck. And it's so helpful. And it's so exciting. And so what's something nice about it is like, it takes the burden off of the planning. You don't feel guilty if you came or not. And then particularly for neurodivergent folks, it's just like a standard thing. And so I just love that as a way of like, this is what we do. And I don't have to tell her I'm coming because she just has an open invite to folks. And so I thinking with friends, like, is there a way to do that of like, hey, I'm always going to be at this place on Mondays. If we want to make it a thing, if you can't come, whatever, I'm already there.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing too is just being honest with your friend and saying, can I just have just a few minutes of your time, maybe setting expectations before you even dive deep into a conversation with them.
And it's tough to not feel like you're doing the most as a friend, but also our friends are like family and having that communication if you want a healthy friendship and what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to know.
Yeah. It almost is like there's this level of vulnerability there and reaching out to someone and then feeling rejected that they didn't have time for, no fault of anyone's, but it just doesn't feel good when you're on the receiving end of that. Josh, are there patterns, like waves of when you have some of these feelings, or are they pretty constant, or is it just, when you feel like you need someone and they're not there, or you see something going on in the world and it makes you sad? Are there patterns and can you feel them?
I think there are certainly patterns that I can recognize as I kind of go into the kind of mental space where I it's hard because it's like sometimes I go into I can feel myself start to sink into the mental space where I'm like, I'm going to do something not great, or like I'm going to expect too much of people. And I know this is coming and I've been here before. And I think the number one struggle that I have, and I was actually happy that you brought up this idea of like trying to find the support or like regulation within yourself. That I think has been my number one issue. And the thing I've, even with past therapists, tried to sort out the most is I have had for the longest time this fundamental belief that I am incapable of possibly being there for myself in a way that is productive, or even like I would go as far as to say like I am incapable of being in the right in general. Whenever I do anything that I'm like on the fence about, I constantly show it to somebody else and was like, was I in the right? Because I'm just,
you don't trust yourself.
Yeah. And that's just become so ingrained in me that pretty much everything I do, I assume is bad, I guess. And I think that's kind of what fuels a lot of it. And as to what triggers feeling self-loathing, I should say, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really know what brings that on.
Can you feel it coming?
Yeah, I can always feel it coming.
Are you sure there are things when he feels it coming? Is there anything he can do? Anything he
Yeah.
can think?
So, I mean, they're called cognitive distortions. I think there's like a list of 12, but like the negative thinking of the black and white there's always this extreme, or the catastrophizing of, I didn't do well in an exam, I'm not going to pass a class, I'm not going to major, I'm going to like get kicked out. I mean, it just goes down there. And so trying to stop the thoughts with a different positive thought. So you're reframing it. And so there's a piece about like checking with people for accountability of like, hey, I'm going to send this email. How does that look? Like, these are all normal things. And when does it become the checking is now impairing your life? Because it's great to be like, I want to make sure this comes off that way I want. But then I'm like, with my husband, I'm like, can you check this for, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. But I'm like, so I think the base of it is giving yourself permission. Like, I'm really happy that I'm checking with people, or I want to be thoughtful. And then what is like, it is good how it is, or whatever you're doing. And if I make a mistake, I can take accountability. And so having some written down phrases that are like, remember to go back to these things. Because sometimes you want this huge master list of self-care, and that's hard to remember when your brain is just telling you you're worthless. And so having a couple things posted, wherever it needs to be, that this is a reminder of like, I am okay. Evidence that's like suggests like, well, why wouldn't I? A lot of my students will be like, well, I got the job because whatever reason that does not make sense. And I'm like, no one's doing charity. Like that, even myself, I'm like, do my students really like me? And it's like the eval, like all these things, they hug me when they see me. Like maybe it's a pity hug. I don't know. But it's just like reminding you, I literally in therapy the other day was talking about this and my therapist was like, what are you doing, girl? She didn't say it like that. And so reminding myself that like the evidence suggests otherwise, and even if the evidence was actually confirming, that doesn't mean it's my story.
Yes.
Right.
It is a feeling in this moment, and remind ourselves our feelings are not always the truth.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Does that resonate with you at all, Josh? Is
Yeah.
it possible? What are we doing?
No, it definitely resonates. I think it's hard. That's really the trick is kind of getting to the space where you can form a counter thought so strong that it can make a difference. Because like the brain is strong, and so it's easy to try to do that. And then for the quote unquote evil, I'm just gonna label it as evil side of your brain can identify that and be like, what a weak attempt to try to stop what's happening right now. I think that's kind of, at least in my experience, what makes depression and anxiety so hard is because my brain so often responds to like suggested ways of countering it by just kind of thinking of it as like inauthentic or shallow maybe. So yeah.
I think that's where medication comes in of an option where it allows folks to lessen the evil, because like you're fighting against yourself, which is exhausting. Where for me, when I'm on meds, like it brings down to like, okay, I can rationally think this counter narrative is true versus poking all the holes at it. Because therapists, will say all these things, evidence suggests that why would you be failing the class, blah, blah, blah. And then our clients are just like, I'm not having it. And it's just like, I find like medications options for some folks, it just allows them to like be like, okay, I feel safe and stable that I can engage in these thoughts and not just purely exhausted from dealing with depression, anxiety.
So I have to think that some worry, some anxiety, some of these things that we're talking about are normal things that we experience in our daily lives, right? So how can Josh and other students decipher from normal anxiety, those things versus
Great question.
help?
Yeah. So like our last episode with Riley, there's a spectrum of sometimes we need less sleep, sometimes we have great ideas, and what is now impairing our life. We all experience anxious thoughts, and what is it when it's meeting the criteria for disorder? And so there's just, at the end of the day, it's like the level of impairment. A lot of us read our emails a couple times before we send it to someone, but what is it like? I have this crushing thought when I make a mistake. Somehow a bad word slipped into it that never was there. Not talking about myself. Like I'm fearful of this happening. And then, there's been times where now I check it after a sent, and then I made how long the message is and like the delay longer in case I made a mistake. And like that for me is like a baseline. But what if it's like, this is taking now 3 hours to send an email? Now that's a problem. And so with depression, we all have low mood, but what is now it's lack of interest in things we want to, suicidal thoughts, ideation, sleeping more, sleeping less, eating less, eating more. Having guilt is a big thing for folks. So just like feeling like, oh, I made another mistake. Like I'm not a great person because of this thing. And so that's when it's the impairment. And then we may see things happening at school, relationships, work, etc.
How do you know when it's time to seek help? When you're feeling that way?
I mean, I feel like always seek help. I mean, I just like, I'm always like, I have plenty of clients that are doing really well, and it's really helpful to have someone check in with them. And also they would be okay if they didn't have someone, in the past to check in with them. And so I think having that rapport when things are going pretty okay, so that way you're trusting that person when they tell you, hey, I think this is a cognitive distortion. I've had clients in the past where I'm like, I think your depression is shifting how you're viewing a situation. And they trust me not to be like, I'm not going to come back to you, Aisha.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you have a therapist, the relationship is definitely
Oh, yeah, the
important.
rapport is the key. Like, at the end of the day, they can have all the training and certificates, but if you don't trust them, I'm not gonna say you have to necessarily like them, but like then their relationship with you, it's hard to like believe they have your best interests in mind.
So when anyone is seeking out a therapist, it has to be one that you trust.
Yeah, like people use the term like click with.
Okay.
Sometimes it's amazing therapists, but you're like, they remind me of my mom, and when they say things, I just can't handle it. And like the person's not even saying anything wrong. They're just like, I can't do it. And other times I have clients are like, I feel like I'm talking to a peer too much because we're closer in age. And so trying to figure out like that sweet spot of like, I feel like I can open up.
Yeah.
And even if you don't trust what they're saying, you feel safe enough to think about why you're not trusting what they're saying, type of thing. Because like therapy, it's work for both parties, but as a client, like being the space that you can engage in that thought.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Josh, I'm going to go back to something that you said earlier. You said something about a phone addiction. Okay, tell us about that. And then I'm going to ask you about social media. Are you looking at, is it the phone, you're looking at social media through the phone, or what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it doesn't really make any sense. And it's not like I have a plan when I go on Instagram or anything.
Okay,
It's just
so
like,
it is social media that you go into through your phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for the most part.
And does that, because I'm going to ask you to, I mean, does that help you? Or does it hurt you? Is it double-edged sword? Are there things on there that can help you? Or when you're done with it, how do you feel?
I'm always reticent to say that technology is like purely evil. I think I get annoyed when people say that. But I will also say that I don't really think that there's much good that comes from me being going on there. I think it really speaks volumes that I again, like I don't have an objective. I just do it to do it. I just get on
You're
there.
killing time,
And,
which
yeah. And I think I heard somewhere, and it's been so long, I don't even know where this was or if it was from a reputable source or what the actual numbers are, but something about how even if a person's phone is dead, they will still spend like not zero amounts of time like just looking at the black screen. Yeah.
You keep forgetting.
Yeah. Or even if I'm not going on social media, I'll open my phone and just I guess, I don't know, swipe around in the apps or something and just be like, there's nothing to do.
Is it comforting?
No.
It's just, is it habitual? Is it just a habit?
Yeah, I think there is part of it that it's a habit for sure. I mean, I could talk all day about how a lot of the social media platforms are designed to freak you out. That's just kind of how it is. And that's how they, stack their interactions.
My students told me not to even go on TikTok. They told me, I don't even have a TikTok account. They said, just don't even do it. So I don't even have one. Yeah.
It is, like Josh is saying, it is addicting. And it depends on what algorithms are everything on TikTok and on social media. And I know you can speak a lot to social media because we love dogs and we see a lot of dog activity. But once you start interacting with something, you'll see more of the same thing. And that's how social media works.
Yeah. I've noticed Instagram pushing a lot of negative comments to the top of their comment section. And I think that it is a very common practice to go on Instagram, see something that you could, whether you agree with it or not, potentially see somebody disagreeing with, which is most things, let's be honest. People will find a way. And opening the comments and then just looking at all the discourse. And then there will be replies in the comment section being like, oh, I just hopped in the comments to see everybody fighting. Yeah. Wow. So it's just like it's being like, oh, that's kind of crazy. I'm going to go read the comments and see everybody freaking out about it. Like, what does that do for you?
Mm-hmm. It's a never-ending story.
He's going to be on social media. Where should he go?
This is a great question. Yeah, I agree. I'm on social media often. My relationship is pretty okay with it, but I never leave feeling better. Like that's not, it's for the dopamine hits. My relationship has always changed with social media depending on what's happening in the world. And I enjoy finding community events and, that helps like, oh, I'm interested in this. And what cool thing will I do with that? And that is cool. And yes, sometimes I see things. I'm like, oh, talk to my husband about like what I learned from the news, aka social media, and that engagement, but I'm never like left feeling better.
Okay.
And so I think with the algorithm of like, what kind of things do you want to follow? Do you set timers? I love a dog and baby on Instagram, and like that's cool. And then also I follow a lot of wellness stuff, but then for some reason I go to comments because I'm looking for the like, what are they gonna say?
Yes.
And there's always something. And so do you limit going to the comments on things that are like beautiful moments? People will just find a way to tear them down. And so for me, it's cultivating these algorithms as more joy. And my friends and I will send a lot of memes. And it's like, that's fun. So
I like that you said you look for wellness.
yeah.
Yeah, wellness organizations and things like that, because they're going to post positive stories and things like that that interest people. So that's another idea for me too. Yeah, that sounds really good. Josh, when thinking about your college journey, I know that you've had, some ups and downs. Is there anything that sticks out that you've had some challenge with through your college journey? And the reason why I ask is because some of our other students are probably going through the same thing. But,
Yeah.
how are you dealing with, what challenges you every day?
So actually, there's been a situation that's been going on right now that's been kind of hard to deal with. I mean, do you guys relate to when like the phrase like when it rains it pours? Like it always feels like when things go wrong, like it opens up the floodgates and then everything starts going wrong. So I'm not bringing this up for sympathy points or anything, but I'm just trying to say how hard it's been. My father is between jobs at the moment, which has put unfortunately, I'm not 100% independent from them. So that's been tough. And then like my mom's uncle passed away, who she was super close with, and it's hard to do well in school when you don't necessarily even know if you'll be able to go to school. Like worst case scenario. I think in that kind of way, it's been really hard to try to like find the motivation. I think in general, I don't do well when things are unresolved, when there's like unresolved situations. And that's hard because like life is full of that.
Yes.
You can't really be like, I don't want any of that. But it's like there's a list of priorities in my head, and I feel like I need to set all these other things straight before I can focus on school. And so even though it should be probably the other way around, I think there's something that goes on in my head where all of a sudden focusing on school feels like the most unproductive choice that I could be making. That is both something that I am trying to like rewire my brain about, and also just something that's been a struggle a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that because life gets hard as you get older. I mean, there's a lot that happens and continues to happen. So it's hard to deal with a lot. Lolita always asks me, so how was your day? How was your day? And I'm like, it's always something. And then I just piled it on her because she asked and she's used to it.
Exactly.
So I know what you're thinking, but on the flip side, you are making your life. You're doing something for yourself, and you are bettering yourself, as a result of going to college. And I think that's something to feel good about.
Yeah.
So you can control that part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think that's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah, when dealing with all the outside influences that you can't control.
That's really good. I like how you said have some semblance of control of what you do. And then you said something about prioritizing those things. Do they help, Aisha?
Yeah, I mean,
Prioritization help control and help you feel better?
It's tough because in general with therapists, we'll be like, I say they, like I'm not one of them, but like try to control the things you can in your world. You can't control that. And also your family's livelihood that impacts you, which impacts you need to do tuition and yada, yada, is a big thing. And if it's not, having basic needs met, and which is why I love that we have food pantry and other services here, because those all impact your ability to go to class. And so going to class and trying to focus when you're like, I don't know if these things are met, are really difficult. And with school, it's a little more of the long game. It will pay off as you continue to gain experience, as you get the degree and income versus like what's happening today. And so sometimes for folks compartmentalizing, okay, I can focus on schoolwork for 30 minutes, maybe setting aside time, like I'm gonna let my brain do its thing of worrying about all the things, and then having a timer and a reminder of like, I can't control this right now. What can I control? But you can still leave grace for yourself of like, it sucks that you can't control that thing, or you can't control if a job is lost because the industry changes and newspapers aren't a thing. Like that's a difficult space of like honoring that, and also what can you control?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have to wrap it up soon. But I want to ask you though, Josh, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy?
What makes you happy?
I don't know. It's interesting because media makes me happy, but social media does not make me happy. But seeing, there's nothing that really like makes me more inspired to create than seeing some sort of creation that is like truly, beautiful and stuff like that. So I do love to take in as much of the stuff that I'm passionate about, like film, which is my minor, and art, which is my other minor, and then like read. That makes me happy on top of doing all those things myself, like making stuff. I also I love, I think helping people makes me happy, or trying to at least. But then there's also kind of that intrusive thought that's like, why are you doing this? What's the motivation for you doing this? Is it purely selflessness, or are you trying to, like, is it some kind of like weird redirection of your own stuff? I don't know. But
There's that self-defeating voice in your head that turns it on top of you. What makes you feel seen or heard?
there's been a couple we've talked about, like encouraging pro mental health, like social media stuff. I love that stuff too, and I interact with it, but just probably not as much as the negative stuff, which is very easy, I think, to find yourself doing, even though you don't try to. So I don't know, some of that stuff makes me feel seen and heard. I love just like on the rare occasion that I do get some friends together. Yeah.
Yeah, that brings you joy.
Yeah.
Gotta have joy.
For sure.
Actually, I'm gonna give you the last word.
In terms of the resources, okay. I was like,
you definitely have resources.
yes,
Take
the
whatever else you
three
want.
big C's, CAPS, counseling clinic in
Have
the
you gone
college
over to
bed.
CAPS?
Oh, good.
Counseling clinic, and then the community behavioral health clinic.
Can you do all three? Because you only have so many visits at CAPS, right?
Yeah, so CAPS is
Can you
fully
like combine them like
licensed-
coupons or something? Just
That's a good question. So CAPS is fully licensed professionals, and when you are at the end of your sessions, which is typically 12, they transfer you to the community, which is having folks who could provide longer term. Counseling clinic is typically a semester because the master counseling students are doing their practicum. And then the community behavioral health clinic, I'm not sure how long they're able to see, but you could transfer through, because my understanding is like they're completely separate. So not double dipping of having two therapists at the same time, but those are great resources for folks needing longer term care, or maybe they just need a semester here and there, and then they can find a new therapist. So
Can I ask just one more question of
Absolutely,
Aisha?
yeah.
Because we talked a lot about joy, finding joy. What would be your advice to students on ways that we all can find joy?
that's a big question, Melissa.
I know, but I just, I want to end on a good note, especially, there's a lot we're all dealing with right now.
Yeah, I think it goes back to me for community and have a community build joy. So in the College of Ed, we have something called Joy Fest. And I have to check, but it's like a Tuesday, November, probably like the 13th. And it's super fun that seeing like administrators wear like the clown red nose. There's free food and stickers. You can bring your kids. And it's just like super excited. I was very upset last year because I think my kid had the flu. And I was just like, oh God, I can't go to Joy Fest. And like people will bring their classes if it's during the time. And also folks who are putting it on together can experience joy of the collaboration. And so thinking about what are like micro moments you can do. And yeah, one time a semester, it's not enough, but what are other tiny little things? So going to office hours, all the different events on campus where they'll have like, oh, I think the counseling director as well as the community behavioral health director will have come talk to us near Starbucks and we'll give you like an $8 coupon. And like these moments you can just pop in, because sometimes it's a lot to be like, I'm going to go to a whole event. But what are something that you can just like be like, hi, Tinker, and then go?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. We're out of time, unfortunately. So, Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on our show. And we wish you joy, sweetheart. We just
Appreciate
wish
it.
you joy.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Yeah, you're on your way.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching this month's show. Just remember that even in the midst of anxiety, depression, and hopelessness, help is always available. You can reach out to your professors, counselors, friends, and others. You can also call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. Trained professionals are available 24/7 to provide you with the help you need.
Well, this wraps up another show for us. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share this episode with a friend who needs it. And always stay connected to Enlighten You for more real conversations about mental health and college life. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of one another. Y'all be good.